Our guest on Art in the Empty Bowl today is Senshin Catherine Griffith, an actor and writer with, as you'll soon see, a comedic bent. She's the head teacher of the Zen Center of Los Angeles, where she lives with her spouse. Originally from Texas, she moved to New York in the late 70s, where she studied at Juilliard and was active in the East Village performance scene. She also trained in Japan with the avant-garde theater director, writer, and philosopher Tadashi Suzuki. Senshin started studying Zen in 1987, and she has brought her talent since then to her work with homeless people, at-risk kids, and incarcerated teenagers. Since 2003, she's been part of Theatricum Botanicum, an outdoor arts venue in Topanga Canyon in the Santa Monica Mountains. We're really glad she could join us today. Welcome, Senshin, and thanks for joining us at Art in the Empty Bowl. I'm really happy that you're able to do this. I've been reading about you and your work and your history, and one thing that struck me is that you've had kind of intuitions of non-duality and Zen teachings from the time you were very young. And you talked about the theory of 555 and how you described that as coming into the moment. Would you talk about that?
Yes, it's funny. I was just talking with my best friend about it. He said, it's one of the quirkiest things about you is your theory of 555. And basically, and it is quirky. My favorite number was 5, and I just decided that I would celebrate 5. And every time it was 555, I would just stop whatever it was and celebrate the moment. And then it became a kind of philosophy that is a construct of the mind. It's not an inherent doctrine, right? It's just an opportunity to celebrate. And so then I realized everything is that. You know what I mean? When you hear a bell, it's an opportunity to come back. When you see the sun or the star or a dog or, and so what I love about 555 is it's inherently ridiculous. It knows it's silly, and yet it's a principle that goes, everything we do is just an opportunity. And I always tell people, pick something you like. Every time I like the number, I like the color green. And so when I see a green light, go, and go, by the way, in Japanese is 5. So go, go, go. It's just like, it's an opportunity to renew, because coming into the present moment is always something that needs to be renewed. We're always in the moment, but we're not always aware of it. So anything that brings you back, when I go through tunnels, when I drive in New York, when I drive in LA, it's just like, okay, when we come out, we're in the moment.
Yeah.
It's what we do in Zen, right? With all our bells and our drums and our incense and all that.
But there's a context to that story, because when I read about it, you were describing how you were dressed up. It has to do with the Eucharist.
Well, that was when I grew up Catholic. That didn't have anything to do with 5, but that was when I had a sense of the moment when they raised and it changed into the body of blood of Christ, or when it says, behold, the Lamb of God. Those moments brought me into a sacred sense of the presence in Mass as a little kid. And so that was one of my first, okay, here's a sacred moment. And then once you have the habit of sacred moments, then it's supposed to spill out into your real life, so to speak,
Yeah, and it seems like it did in your case.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you found later names for
it. In the Diamond Sutra, it says, Subhuti, is there any such thing as Bodhisattva? No, honored one. Bodhisattva is just a name, and therefore we call it Bodhisattva.
Yeah. Yeah, right. You're getting ahead of me, because one of the things I like about Zen is that it deconstructs itself.
Yes, absolutely.
and it won't let you attach even to it.
Yes. Or a rug pull. You know what I mean?
A rug pull.
Yeah. Huh, up, up, up.
Yeah. Um, you studied at Juilliard, you said, and you did performed in New York City, and you did performance art. This is before you encountered Zen,
Yes.
right? But given that you already knew a lot about the state that Zen is describing, how did the actual practice inform your work as an artist?
I think it was kind of so yes, it's very interesting because at Juilliard we would lie on the ground and go to get in touch with our breath. It was very strong vocal training, right? And so it's very embodied. And then we found that after doing all that vocal work, we actors thought, oh, if you do that before a show, you're much more present. And then we even trained there in my last year with Tadashi Suzuki, who did a Japanese theater training technique where you stomp on the ground and stomp in the hara. And I also worked with him in Togamura, Japan. So acting is about being in the moment. You've got to hear, hi, your father's dead. Oh, take it again. Your father's dead. Oh, as if you've never heard it. You don't know it's coming. So beginner's mind is so natural it's what you strive for in acting. It's about listening and playing off. Someone drops it, you don't ignore it. You work with what happens. You have to be alive. You memorize and you set you mark it out, but then you let go of the raft and you're in the moment. You listen to the audience. Do you need to slow down? Do you need to pick up speed? Did someone drop their cue? Do you need to feed them their line? So it's very alive, so very natural. And when I first met my first teacher, he even said, oh, you have a very natural instinct with Zen. But I think, I know this is on the arts, but I think artists do. Writers are about seeing things, great awareness and just being aware of seeing, oh, the irony or the juxtaposition or that person talking to that person or, someone saying something while something else is going on,
Yeah.
so that kind of awareness of life. I would say too, I found those moments on stage so alive and so in the present moment. I actually wanted my life to be like that more, to be always present. And so I think that's what made me want to do Zen, was not that I didn't experience it, but I wanted to have it more often, have it close the gap so that you're not missing moments because it's so easy.
And then you said that you you played 17 characters in the same piece, which seems, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but you still have to it's like that child's toy where you pick up the thing and it erases.
Yes.
That's what it reminded me of, the ability to just enter each character freshly with emptiness. What was that like? What was the
I think there are some actors who have that talent, and I'm one of them. But I found, and that's when I started, right around when I started doing my solo work. And in other shows I played like 10 or 12 or 15. I always play multiple characters. I actually needed to do Zazen before I could perform, because then you're just worrying, about your lines or what comes next. You've got to rehearse it enough so it's embodied, and you can't be so nervous that, you're. So that's when I would really started doing. I had come to Zen by then, and really purposefully needed to do Zazen before I went on stage, so that I was totally empty and available and trusting. Also, just energetically, I'm good at switching. I played a channeler for many years, and so I kind of channel, so it's easy for me to switch. But energetically, if you worry, that zaps your energy. So to make yourself available, I had to be empty.
It seems like in Zen particularly lends itself to creative expression on the part of the average practitioner, and it invites it. there's a certain permission there. Do you find that to be so?
Yes, and part of especially Zen is about why did Bodhidharma come from the West? This very life. You know, this one reason I studied some Tibetan stuff, but I wasn't interested in the mandalas or the visualization. I liked seeing the dirt on the ground in front of me. I liked,
Ah,
seeing the yellow shag rug or, just that this life is so amazing. I'll say one thing. When I first came out of Juilliard, I was so well trained and I was into the essence. I was also a playwright, so I was going to go, I'm going to write about the essence and it's got to be very precious and all this. And then when I did this performance piece with Tim Miller, part of what he did was just say, for breakfast I had 2 eggs, bacon, and toast and butter. And that's when I had this great revelation, which was like, the banal is the essence.
right.
You know what I mean? In other words, that is poetic in its own context as to be or not to be, or some beautiful poetic text in the right context used, like in visual art. If you're just putting an ordinary thing in the piece, oh, that in itself, it's how it's used, but everything can be it. I always say that if you took the lyrics of an opera aria, it would be like, oh, oh, my love, oh, oh, don't go, I will die. What? So it's the form, not always just the content, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah, so that, oh my gosh. And who cares that what she's saying is, oh, oh, don't go, please. But it's the feeling, right? It's the expression of it.
Yeah, and staging and all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I really like opera, and I go to the opera. One of the reasons I like it so much is because I feel that these people are being hysterical on my behalf.
Yes. It's cathartic. That's why we go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So another thing, you've done a lot of different things, and I guess this is a kind of performance. You said you went undercover as a homeless person.
That was for we were gonna write I was with some other artists, uh, actually some friends from Juilliard, and we were gonna do a play about the homeless. It was in the middle of the 80s. And so I did research. And so I just went undercover to see what it was like. And then we ended up not doing anything. We realized it needed it seemed for us to be very passive. We needed a better context. But it was a really interesting experience. And it's funny, I think it's around the time Bernie Glassman did his bearing witness retreats or something. But I did it not as a Zen to bear witness. I did it to can I just dissolve and be there? And because I'm so like active and energetic, when I would sit in the women's shelters, I would go, my intention was, don't come over and offer me a job. Like, oh. And I would
Because you look like a good candidate for a job.
yeah, don't look like, oh, she's got something, And
Yeah.
I was young at the time, very young, and like in my 20s. And so it's when the homeless situation was really a hot topic. And I went to some soup kitchens, and a New York Post reporter came up to interview me. And I didn't want to come up with a lie or a backstory. So I just was like, neutral. Like, and then I sat down with some old men, and they said, sometimes you just don't feel like talking. And then I even spent the night in Port Authority, and I was with a friend, and she left, so I was left there alone. And I didn't want to fall asleep. There was a lot of people around, but it was kind of potentially dangerous. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm not a middle of the night person, so I had to stay awake and stuff like that. And
But how did you work with yourself in order to be in that situation? I mean, what did you?
I mostly just emptied. And I also sometimes sat on on the street, or just like sat and like, and because I'm so active, I don't know if you can tell with my mind, I'm like, I'm, I just, I just, like you said with the etch a sketch, I just emptied myself. So I didn't have a persona. In a way, I was very zen. I was just like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm not adding content. And this was before Zen, actually. It was a few years before I went to the Zendo. It was like, I'm just here. Don't be me. I didn't have another character. I was just like, be the situation.
So it was like a 555 moment.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm, that's cool. You were how long did you do that for?
I would say it was periodic. It wasn't like a extended period, but it's. I remember I was very depressed because it was in the winter, and didn't have a job, and I wasn't in a show. And I remember calling my father, and I said, "Oh, I'm so depressed. The only thing that's going well is my research into the homeless, and that's depressing."
Uh,
But I found some characters that I later used in my show. Um, there was this blind preacher in one of those soup kitchen things on 46th Street, and you had to go down, you had to go to this Christian service before you could go upstairs. And this blind preacher, I swear, comes down the aisle in this little crowded chapel going, "Hello, everyone. Hello." He had this CNI dog. "Hello. Hello." And he would do these Bible verses that I later did him in my show. And he would go, "And in the Garden of Gethsemane, and what did Jesus say in the Garden of Gethsemane?"
Whatever it is that you have, it enables you to do voices easily.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
But I was that as a kid, you know.
Right.
But not that wasn't Zen. That some people just are that, and some people are you know. I would listen to the musical of Camelot, and I would sing all the roles. Richard Burton, Robert Goulet, Julie Andrews, Roddy McDowell. I would just do all their voices. You
You
know,
could
at
do
like
the
8 years
voices.
old.
Wow.
Each evening from December to December.
You said once, you said as an artist and a practitioner, I don't need life to be free of obstacles and challenges. This is what I am here for, to serve and express. Um, uh, it's a nice quote, and I like that very much. I don't have a question. I'm just,
And I think I even tell my students a lot that, and that's what Bodhisattva. In other words, sometimes we as Zen practitioners, people originally come to relieve their own suffering. But the world's going to do what the world's doing. You know what I mean? We've been told there's going to be suffering in the world, and there's proof of that. That's not going to go away. Just our own human bodies, we're going to die. Things don't stay the same. We don't always get our individual will, right? Which causes our
no
suffering when things
kidding.
don't go our way. But when things go bad on the larger scheme too, that's what a bodhisattva's here to relieve suffering. And that, to me, that's what an artist is. I'm here to express. In the 90s, I did an apocalyptic weather team about like 100 triple digit heat, or, you know, triple below freezing. You know what I mean? I did these satires of weather, and now we're living it. You know, plagues of locusts and scattered annihilation by early morning Pat. You know, just the kind of banalness of treatment of it. And now what do I do? Now what is needed in the world? What do I, as an artist or as a bodhisattva, needs to be said? You know, we're in dialogue with our communities. We're in dialogue with our society, with our world, and we offer what I think is like our enzyme. We all have different skills. Sometimes it might be doing something precious over here. Sometimes it might be very much full of the content of the world, but put in a different way. There's no rule about it, but going deep inside yourself and say, what is it that I'm seeing from a deep place? And with my talents, how do I express that for the benefit so that people
Mm.
can wake up and see? And then that makes it alive. And that's not like the world has to be like this before I can do my art. No, you work with the world to do your art. You're engaging with what is going on to do it.
You're saying you're sort of talking about the cliche of the suffering artist.
Yes, and you might need to say, I see what's going on and I need to go to the country to write this script. Or
Right.
I see a lot of misery. I need to get a group of people together and we're going to do some comedy. You know what I mean? So I remember after we just watched 9/11 over and over and over. And I remember by the end of the week, my partner and I, we just said, okay, we need some Seinfeld. I need some trivial, shallow people to make me laugh who are New Yorkers. I
Yeah.
need that to remember that side of New York. And
Yeah.
so that is Seinfeld's a healing show, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they cut out a lot of lighter stuff on TV right after 9/11.
And
I mean,
that's appropriate. That's, you know, sometimes that's, you know, you need to balance.
yeah, right. It was heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say with comedy is, you know, tragedy plus time.
Right.
Or Mel Brooks says something like, and I'm paraphrasing, but something like, comedy is when you fall into a pothole and fall over. And he goes, tragedy is when I prick my little finger. If it's happening to you, it's funny. If it's happening to me, this is a tragedy.
That's good. I was interested also in your work with the Wheel Gear Theatrical Botanicum.
Yes.
What a handful of a name that is.
Yes.
So first, tell us what that is and what you do with them.
So Will Geer, who played Grandpa on the Waltons, was a major stage actor as well and movie actor, and he was blacklisted in the 50s. So he bought some land in Topanga Canyon and grew vegetables and fed his family and stuff like that. And he started a Shakespeare company. And he's long been dead, but his daughter, who's now close to 75, runs the theater. And so they do classical plays in this amphitheater in the mountains.
Hmm.
And it's also, it doesn't have like a lot of set changes. It's like a towering house, like in Shakespeare. So it's kind of a set, and they just bring furniture pieces out. They do a lot of classics. They do new plays, and they do sometimes creative casting. Like she and her sister get most of the roles, but sometimes because Shakespeare doesn't have a lot of women's roles, or the classics do, she'll cast against gender. So she once played Lear as a female, and I was her understudy. And
Oh,
then I played Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream for 4 seasons as a man, and you know was
oh,
perfectly fine with that. And sometimes you can play. I also played in Ibsen's Enemy of the People, the mayor, which is often played as the brother, but I played it as a sister. And it was set in the South, and she had rewritten it to have like interracial marriage and all that kind of stuff. And so I played it as a very strong Southern woman.
wow.
Um, but it's outdoors, and I just love. It's kind of primal, you know, in that sense of the sacred space. They love theater. It's they have a strong educational program there. Kids come and stuff like that. I got to play Mrs. Antrobus in Thornton Wilder's Skin of Our Teeth. And there's this one moment when the world is ending and she's calling for her son. I forget what his name is. I think it's George, maybe her son. But at the moment it's time to get on the ark, she just yells, Cain! You know, and that mother love to do that and to play it in an amphitheater. Oh, it's just delicious. Let me tell you, it's that big acting, you know what I mean? But it fills the space and it's true, but it's not like in on film and TV. You're just pulling back, pulling back, and you just like think the thought, and it just reads on your face. There's something in me that's very kinetic, and I love this. I love stage acting, you know.
So it's film and TV, there's more premeditation.
Actually, if they want you to be fresh, it's more, but it's more, I just want to say pulled back so you can just go, if you just thought, Cain, But the camera goes there.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to be big because the camera's right there. But in
That's
Shakespeare,
interesting.
it's vocal, right? Cain!
I get it.
Yeah.
You delivered that perfectly, graphically. Great. That was great. I mean, Shakespeare, Winter's Tale has great women characters.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
Uh, it isn't like he couldn't do women. It's just that maybe he didn't. His
He
his
does.
subjects were
The women he writes are some of the better written ones. Like Juliet is very intelligent, very imaginative. She has more lines than Hamlet, actually. And Winter's Tale is beautiful. I do one of my audition pieces is Paulina's speech. I mean, very
beautiful,
beautiful.
incredible speech.
And the women are very strong in Shakespeare. They're just not that many of them. It's not that they're not well written. It's just there's only two in a cast.
So you said one of your auditions is her speech?
Yeah, you have to have monologues that you have to have ready to go.
So you know it by heart?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so could you give us a few lines?
Yes. What would it be? I'll just go. Thy tyrannies, together working with thy jealousies, fancies too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed, stark mad, for all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it.
I enjoyed that. Thank
So
you.
I know, I'm a comedic actor, but I feel very at home, obviously, dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why you would be.
Yeah. And I think not everyone can be a comedic actor, but a comedic actor at least knows what bad dramatic acting is. It's like, if you go there, I would parody it.
Yeah.
So it would be something I would make fun of.
You were describing how Zen is kind of fun and can be fun, and it lends itself to play. And that somehow that you're actually in the Zen Center of Los Angeles, you have something called the Order of Disorder. And I was already intrigued by that. It sounds like one of these classic carnivalesque things where you flip things on their head.
Yes, and basically it comes out of the Zen Peacemaker organization that Bernie Glassman went to. And Bernie Glassman was the second abbot and Maizumi Roshi's first Dharma heir. And he was very serious. And then he realized he needed to lighten up. So he trained with a Zen clown, and Mr. Yuhu, Moshe Cohen. And Moshe Cohen has come and given workshops here at the Zen Center. And
Who's Mr. Yuhu? That's Moshe
Cohen, yes. And so he works with Clowns Without Borders. He does clowning in war areas with kids and stuff like that. So he was Bernie's, but they do something called like the backwards bow, as opposed to the forward bow. We do backwards bow, but we have a little bit of that energy that we can always pull on it, because some of our key people have trained so that I think it goes well with the rug pulling nature of Zen.
Yeah.
Too seriously, and so we haven't done a workshop in a while, but we'll probably do it again. But I'm known as, that's funny too. So it's like on Zoom, you know how there's a lot of hitting in Zen. I would be like, I would hit people on Zoom, and that I liked the in some of the koans, it's like 30 bowls if you 30 blows if you say yes, 30 blows if you say no. Boom, boom, boom. Like, get out of your head. It's just this. Stop. And with contemporary, hitting, it's violent, come on, get over it. So I think you can hit without hitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't make me hit you. I say that, and then it serves the point of a shift. All I want you to do is shift. I don't really want to hit you. Some people need to, feel it. But really, I just need you to shift your mind. Get out of trying to be this or that. what I do is even in person, I'll say, you know, you want me to hit me? And they know I'm not. You know what I mean? Because I'm a clown. And it's like, and they're doing it about the things, but in a way, it's like when we watch the cartoons, like in Bugs Bunny. I see it as that kind of like, you know, it's like, I like when you go, would you like, how many lumps of sugar would you like? Oh, 2 or 3. Bam, bam, bam. You know, it's like you're not paying attention, and then he does it again. Would you like some more sugar? Oh yeah, I'll take 2 or 3. Bam, bam, bam. Like that person isn't awake. You know, so the trickster wakes them up.
Yeah.
And it's that. But yeah, I don't think we should really hit in real life now. If anything, we're even being more cautious about, and I went to Juilliard, so you were just criticized out the wazoo. You know, no, that's not the way to do it, right? All that. We'll just go. If someone hits the bell, no, you're late, right? That's the old Zen way. Late. Now we'll go. Wait for that cue.
Right.
Having to say it so much nicer because people are so sensitive to criticism, you know.
You have to give Novocaine first.
Yeah. All right. First, when you hear the gong, then bow. Bow after the gong. Wait for the bong.
That makes sense in a culture where you don't know who's walking in and where they come from.
Exactly. And to be rigid about barking is rigid. Let go of that. It's not useful anymore. Let go of that.
Right.
What do people need now? And also not necessarily. Now go. Say it with love. Now go. Yes, wait. Now go.
Right. I mean, I guess that's one of the dividends of Zen coming to the West.
Yeah.
And away from its own Weltanschauung.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also the West has very maverick spirit. We're naturally individual. We might have to link to Sangha more. You know, we have to need to, it's not all about you. You know, it's not just about getting rid of your own suffering. It's about how are you serving? How are you, but that Maverick's spirit, don't you tell me what to do, is very West. You know, we do that naturally. You're not the boss of me.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about is I go to a Zendo. It's the Empty Bowl Zendo. We meet in a church upstairs, really nice. Directly across the street, there's a store called Zen Aesthetics, and it's skincare. And of course, there's Zen everything now. You know, there's Zen listening and Zen running and Zen all that. And so in a way, that's sort of interesting. It's become trendy and chic and all that. And in another way, I wonder if it's problematic. Like somebody in our Zendo was saying, one of the teachers was saying, not a lot of young people are coming to Zen. And she's trying to figure out why that is. And I wonder if it has anything to do with that Zen has entered the language and it's like, you know, it's lost some of its profundity and meaning.
I think that's a really good question. I think, well, you know, in the end of the Daily Show, they say, and now here's your moment of Zen. And what they do is they just show something that really happened. And that might be, it's funny that it's used that way. I wonder, a lot of young people not coming might be they're doing meditation on their apps.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And also post-pandemic, are they knowing where to come for Sangha? Is it an age when they're full of themselves as opposed to wanting to connect or give up a certain amount of time? We're getting a lot of young men coming to ZCLA, and I think they're wanting some rigor.
They do. Yeah.
And there's a lot of mindfulness everywhere. You can just, right, it's taught, especially in LA, there's a jillion places you can do meditation. So what is Zen that's different? I just taught a course on the Eightfold Path and the difference between mindfulness in the popular vernacular and right mindfulness, right heart mindfulness in the Eightfold Buddhist path is, who is it that's doing it? It's linking to that awareness where the dropped self is connected to the whole. And it's supported by the other parts of Buddhism that has the precepts, the knowing the marks of existence, in other words, impermanence, no self, and suffering. And it's put in context, right? Or the Bodhisattva vows. So it's not just about, okay, I'm present and now I can, function at my corporate job a lot better, whatever.
Right. So the mindfulness is not like a personal attainment.
Right.
It's linked to the larger understanding.
Yeah, the other
We are.
right view, right effort, right intention, right action, right speech, and then right concentration. It's all part of a whole, right? And just mindfulness is there. It's just like, okay, I feel so much more relaxed. But it doesn't deal with your relationships. It might have some benefits, but I think there's real value to the rest of Buddhism. And maybe it's not for everyone. I mean, I think there's many roads to Rome, both in the arts and in your spiritual practice. You got to fit something that works with you. I think the greatest part of Christianity has it if they practiced it. And what I think I particularly like about Zen is it gives you practices, so that even if you do mindful eating in sesshins, you're practicing doing it with activity. You sit, but then you walk mindfully and then come sit again. You bow when you enter space. You chant. So you do it in the voice. You listen, We give you other tools where you're working the muscle to sustain the practice, and it's not just what you do on the cushion.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you also about you mentioned rigor, because the rigor plays a part in the benefits of Zen. And even though, it's quite rigorous, actually. When you walk in there, there's a whole protocol that I'm always getting wrong. And at the same time, I find that it's so liberating in terms of how I live my life. Paradoxical in a way.
I always say, if you say it's paradoxical, chances are you're closer to the truth or closer to something that's beneficial. If it's just, oh no, rigor's only good. And so as an artist, if you said you can do anything you want, I don't know where to start, but if you say, okay, you can only use this color, this voice, and this theme, go. And so to me, in that rigor, especially with someone like me who has a million ideas, emptying my mind, that's very balancing. It's a balancing to the active life.
Yeah.
And not choice. Also, I think in our society, we have too many choices. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Or do you want to do this? Do you want to do this or this? No choice. Drop. Do what we say. Oh, that's so freeing. Thank you. Also, I think if you're a very traumatized person who has a low sense of ego, it might not be your first choice to go into Zen. I think Zen is good for those who have a strong sense of ego, to drop the ego. You have to have something to drop. If you haven't formed yourself and we're telling you drop yourself, that's not the right instruction for that person. I think they need to be built up, and you're okay. Sometimes you can do that in Zen, and I tend to be very encouraging rather than, they say that, the two swords, one that takes life and one that gives it away, life, takes it away. I find people who come to Zen are very hard on themselves. So then you almost want to say, hey, let up. You're just fine. Whatever Zen does, whatever you're not. What are you missing? You're too hard to let go. What's perfect? Keep working. Another tricky part too is Zen isn't a proselytizing religion. And actually to say, come get Zen is so not Zen. Zen is not being, you don't even say Zen. You don't have Zen stink. You don't say, you'll get this if you do this, So how do you do the subtle, inexpressible advertising? You know, when I was working with Tim Miller and he said, I just did Zazen today. I always say it's like, oh, I was a dog. Zazen. That sounds like something I should do. You know, it's just like you got to know yourself and you go, that seems right for me. And boy, has it been right for me, you know.
Oh, that's a good place to end, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, is there anything you want to add that, that we talked about that you want to?
No, but I just think if we're talking about Zen in the arts, I just think artists kind of are naturally Zen, or that they like rigor, or they like exacting in whatever their art form, whether it's the light in photography, or the color, or the palette, or the dance move, and so it probably, I find scientists and teachers and people who help are drawn to Zen,
Yeah,
but also it's natural for artists. I think we can handle the dropping, you know, and it does help you not take things personally too, you know, in criticism in the world. It's like it's not about me, you know.
yeah,
That's
like hello, yeah, right. The whole intersection of art and Zen got me thinking about emptiness. It occurred to me that emptiness, um, tell me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking of emptiness more as like a big loft space where you're going to make a big painting. An empty loft space, or where you can actually do something in it. It's a stage, it's a setting. We're like the Metropolitan Opera, where they have 4 levels below the stage. They have a 10-story ceiling and things coming in from the wings.
you know, there's form and formless, and both are empty. But that formless, where does you might say the source, or the true nature of things, where does it begin? Where does it end? It's boundless. It's the boundless aspect that you're in. And yet then there's the myriad that is constantly coming out of that formless field into forms. And so by emptying, you're tuning in to the boundless, no coming, no going, no here, no there, no me, no you, into the, oh, that's specific, that. And it refreshes, reminding yourself of that aspect of yourself that will be there whether you die or live or whoever, that is endless. And then you come into the very specific next moment.
So, well, bingo, because how can emptiness suggests a container that is empty, but what you're talking about is a containerless experience of
It
reality.
really, and that's why it's tricky when you use English words, because empty seems like you're emptying.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about, really, in the Buddhist sense, empty means empty of inherent existence on its own. I am not a solid something. I think I am, even with my 17 characters. But I am not solid. I am endlessly forming. I am not solid. I am not unconnected to everything. And so I am empty of inherent existence. I am empty of solid existence. I am empty of a permanent self. And in that no self-awareness, people are, oh, I'm afraid of tuning into the nose. If you drop, then my true self, my temporary expression as Senshin Griffith is very vivid. It's available. You know what I mean? It's not even locked by the constructs that you said, oh, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. It's available to be fully expressed individualistically, moment to moment.
Yeah.
Yes?
That was wonderful. It's actually emptiness is fullness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Emptiness is fullness, fullness is emptiness. Emptiness is none other than fullness.
So
Fullness
that's
is none other than emptiness.
right. That's the Zen self-canceling thing that it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
That this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. To learn more about Empty Bowl Zendo, go to emptybowlzendo.org. There you'll also find more art in the Empty Bowl features. Empty Bowl Zendo meets Tuesday evenings at 6:30 p.m. in Morristown, New Jersey. Everyone is welcome.